We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. I hope that all of you are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Huge show in store for you tonight. Carter Bryant joins us like he does every Monday at 7:30. Jayden Daniels wins the Heisman. Was Malik Nabers snubbed? We got so many things that we need to talk about with Carter. Some portal guys that look like that can be brought in here to this LSU team. Xavier Thomas currently on campus. We'll talk a little bit about that. It was a week ago today that Carter hinted at that. Can LSU lock down the special teams guru in Xavier Thomas? LSU gets back underway with practice. What does it look like for Brian Kelly with Jayden Daniels not in that building today? Something that we'll talk about. Garrett Nussmeier obviously taking the reins. What does Carter think about that? We got so many things that we need to talk about there. But yes, LSU did practice today. But the number one thing, obviously, is Jayden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner. You know what's crazy is this morning, I tweeted or X'd, triple X'd, if you will, and I just put out something simple saying hashtag retire 5. And I cannot believe the pushback that I got. I cannot believe guys, this dude won a Heisman. Well, he's not Joe Burrow. He's not Kevin Falk. He's not Glenn Dorsey. Guys, he won a Heisman Trophy. Glenn Dorsey did not. Tyrann Mathieu did not. Kevin Falk did not, which I do kind of agree that maybe Kevin Falk could be up there. But nevertheless, what are we talking about? He's the second best player in LSU football's history. I don't understand the discussion. As Jayden Daniels immortalizes himself into LSU greatness on Saturday night, winning the Heisman Trophy. We'll talk about that as well. I just think it's so great, man. So great that LSU is on display for that award. And it was kind of, I felt like an LSU Invitational. Like everything was surrounding by Jayden Daniels. He had the most publicity on social media. Washington fans got mad. Michael Penix this, Michael Penix that. Well, you can't have a game where you throw no touchdowns and 2 interceptions and Jayden Daniels goes for 500 against Ole Miss. I don't care that Jayden Daniels' team lost. Doesn't matter that LSU lost. He went for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. Dude was just incredible. Not only with his arm, but with his legs. Just the truth. 1,000% the truth. Nabers get snubbed. We'll talk about that a little bit too. We'll probably mention that a little bit more with Carter. Portal craziness, some recruiting craziness. Brian Kelly going to start going in-home visits with some guys. We might touch on that a little bit too. Can LSU lock down the top 10 in the state? Can they finally put on the pressure for a guy like Dominic McKinley and get him to flip? LSU does have 8 of the top 10 committed into this class. You got guys like Harlem Berry, James Simon, and Bryce Underwood that will potentially, maybe not so much James Simon, but all of those guys going to be committing here soon. So looking forward to that. We might get into a little bit of recruiting. Oh, and by the way, as I've told you, did y'all see that the Saints players and fans were getting excited on being a 1-11 Carolina Panther team? Like Derek Carr out here flexing because he threw a touchdown against a 1-11 football team. What are we doing? What are we doing? It shouldn't have been as close as it was. I know that technically the Saints are still tied for the lead in the NFC South. I don't really care, man. I just don't think they're any good. I think they got to move on. I just how I feel. So we'll see. Chris H says, any rumors on staff changes? I think that this could be a week where you could potentially see it. I can also, and what I feel, seems like it might come after bowl season. And really, truly, there are coaching changes around college football, it really, to my opinion, hasn't really started yet. I mean, you got some coordinators here and there. You got Manny Diaz to Duke. You know, you got a report that was out there, not saying it did, but there was a report out there that Joe Sloan could be headed to Vandy. Doesn't look that way as their next OC. Made a couple phone calls. Doesn't look like that's happening. So we'll see. We'll see. Do I think that there's going to be some? Yeah, but it all comes down to timing. I mean, Brian Kelly can only say he's evaluating staff for so long before fans start getting a little restless. If they were going to fire Matt House, I mean, maybe they would have done it already. I do think that he possibly gets demoted. I mean, if you wanted to fire him, you could have fired him by now. I don't think there's any continuity. And look, you got 9 days until early signing day, so we'll see there. You know, we'll see. Stephen Fry, good friends over at Fry Construction, says, Blake, is it time to crank up the Nuts Bus for serious now? Yes. And put a big arse supercharger on that mofo. Yeah, I think it is. Jane Daniels did not practice today, nor should he have. Nor should he have. And people, you know what? And you like the media, every time they saw Jayden this week, they're like, are you playing the bowl game? 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 No! Stop asking him. Stop asking him. All right. Richie Evans says, congratulations to JD5. I told him and got them Benjamins. Yeah, we won our bet on Saturday plus 4,000. $100 bet plus 4,000 at the time that we placed it. So awesome. Happy Merry Christmas to me. And maybe you should listen to us next time too. And you know what else? Look, like, man, I got the Rufino's rants up there. I am going on a Rufino's rants. Some of you are just going to have to deal with it for a minute, but I told you so. Kenneth Harris says, let's go. Memphis 901 is in the building. Where are you listening to us from tonight? Are you in the 901? You in the 985? You in the 337, the 225, the 318, the 504? Where are you listening from tonight? And give us the town, too. Give us the town. Carlton Landry says, we need to be honest. He may be looking at a DC who's still coaching. Very possible. Very, 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 very possible. Mark says, with Jayden now winning the Heisman and Caleb Williams and Drake May having subpar seasons, if Jayden kills it at the combine, at the pro day, he could be the number one overall pick. Could. Don't see Caleb Williams falling that far. I mean, the worst I could see him falling would be to 2. I don't know. Gerard, who's always a breath of fresh air, always talking about positive things, says, sarcasm, McKinley is overrated. LSU got the better one in Relaford. Yeah, Gabe Relaford did commit on Friday. God, feels so long ago. Gabe Relaford committed on Friday. So a massive pickup, massive flip for LSU. It's good. I mean, look, I'm going to clarify that as a flip. So getting Weston Davis and Gabe Rutherford to flip from Texas A&M is a big thing. Like, you don't have to go up against them. So, and they're really good players. Got to give Brian Kelly and this staff a lot of credit. Getting Gabe Rutherford's a big deal, a very, very big deal in my opinion. You got to get dudes there. So, yeah. Carrie Jackson, says should have kept Durante Jones. Can I put something to bed really quick? Can I put something to bed? Durante Jones, yeah, was okay, but he wasn't that great. Like, I mean, guys, come on. I mean, they did a lot better in 2021, but it's not like you can get better dudes than Durante Jones. Can we all disagree with that? Durante Jones is not the measure of DC that you should go after. If we're just being real. So we weren't saying this last year, though. We weren't. I mean, Durante Jones. There's a reason why Durante didn't get another DC job somewhere. He went back to the Vikings, believe it or not. And their secondary is not doing so great. We'll see. All right. Got lots to discuss. Carter Bryant in about 15 minutes. Let's do this. Let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. Our good friend Tyler Alexander in his new home. Yeah, not at eXp Realty anymore, but still in the real estate business, still doing a lot of things. Let's talk about them, and let's come back because we got a lot to discuss. Stay with us. Everybody hit the like and share. Share to all those groups on Facebook. Share to all your social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Don't go anywhere. We're back next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
We're back. Let's get rolling, y'all. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. All right. Got to go on a little bit of a rant. If you're just joining us, where are you watching us from tonight? Where are you watching the show from? We'll get to some of those throughout the process. Rufino's Rants time. Jayden Daniels came from Arizona State a couple of years ago. And look, we did a show the day that he committed or officially committed to LSU. We did an hour before that he committed. Didn't tell anybody the exact time that he was committing. We did a show. We gave you the preface. We talked about it. And look, there were a lot of people who thought when Jayden Daniels made that commitment to LSU that maybe he would be starting behind or sitting behind Miles Brennan. Is there going to be a chance that Garrett Nussmeier takes the next step? You got a young Walker Howard coming into the building. Is Jayden Daniels going to be the odd man out? And we told you then, which we'll tell you now, obviously, back then, this was one of the best moves that LSU had ever made. And it's really, quite honestly, when LSU has the last two times gone into the portal and gotten a transfer quarterback, it's worked out mightily for them. Just look at the two Heisman Trophy winners of those two transfers, that being Joe Burrow and obviously Jayden Daniels. Listen, I want to make this very well known because last year, a lot of you remember, we took a lot of criticism saying, you got to trust the process. You got to trust in Jayden. He's going to have a bad game. He's going to have some rough starts here and there to start off. But if you continue to let him progress with Mike Denbach, Brock, Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly, the kid has the potential to go absolutely insane. We talked about that over and over and over again. During the preseason, I came out here 4 months ago and really talked about, guys, the stuff that I'm hearing now being at practice, the stuff that I'm seeing, so many different things. I think Jayden Daniels can win Heisman. Came out in the show and said, I'm putting a $100 bet on a plus 4,000 odds that Jayden Daniels is going to win the Heisman Trophy. And every single week, more than any other player, any other quarterback in the country, if he did not play lights out every week, his team was going to lose. You remember the last week that LSU, or last game that LSU played against Texas A&M. LSU offensively has a rough start. Here comes Jayden Daniels to save the day. LSU offense goes off. They score a lot of points. They win. You saw him go off in losses like Ole Miss. You saw him have the best first half that against Nick Saban in the history of Nick Saban's tenure in coaching, with having 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half before getting knocked out by a dirty hit and a dirty player. And a lot of people say, well, Blake, against Florida State, he wasn't that great. Well, even though he had 400 yards and only had a touchdown, I'm old enough to remember when Joe Burrow had some of those same exact stats in his 2019 campaign when he played Auburn. The truth was that Jayden Daniels always had the talent. He always had the fortitude and the mindset of being a great quarterback. He just had to put it all together, and this year he did. It would be one thing if Jayden Daniels was just a Heisman contender about what he did through the air with his arm with 3,800 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But the thing that separates a guy like Jayden and why he's the third Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in LSU's history is because what he did with his legs. He was a nightmare for every team that he played, not only this year, but last year as well. If you don't believe me, ask Nick Saban what he thought of Jayden Daniels from a year ago. He told you leading up to the game this year, Jayden Daniels absolutely killed us. He did it to him again this year, which a team that's in the playoff in Alabama that, look, you're not going to like hearing this, could go on to win a national title. Now that Jayden Daniels has won the Heisman Trophy, to me, he's the second best player in LSU football's history. Well, Blake, he only went 9-3. Guys, there's also not been a defense this bad ever. You can talk about 2020 all you want and the COVID year. Some of you believe that year wasn't even real. And if that's the truth, and you're just going to throw that year away, I've heard from a lot of you saying that year never counted. This is the worst defense from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, the worst that we've seen here in Baton Rouge. And it didn't matter because of what Jayden Daniels overcame. There's no business whatsoever. You know, it's interesting. Every time that LSU over the last 15 years scored more than 17 points against Alabama, did you know that they won every single one of those ball games? LSU scored 28 this past year with Jayden Daniels. Against Ole Miss, scoring 49 points, him going for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns wasn't enough because your defense was that bad. I think, and it's of my opinion, whether you agree with me or you don't, which quite honestly, I do not care, I think that you should retire his number. Now, do you need to do Joe Burrow's before his? Yes. But I don't think that people fully understand what the kid did, and what winning the Heisman means. Is it an individual trophy? Sure. It's an individual award. Guys, he scored 50 touchdowns in the regular season. The only other dude that can say that they had that much impact on a team would be Joe Burrow. And you know what? You know what's so great about this is you're about to find out the absence of him when Garrett Nussmeier takes over or whoever the quarterback is going to be in the future, because 50 touchdowns in a season just doesn't fall off on trees. You got to replace a lot. You know it. I know it. Now, you don't have to replace a lot along the offensive line, but at receiver, you 1,000% do. I never thought that, and as I see here and I look at all of our Burrow memorabilia and painting and portrait, I never thought in my lifetime that I would see a quarterback at LSU do some of the same things that Joe Burrow did. Guys, he did them. He did them. 50 touchdowns in a year. There are numbers and names in the rafters for LSU football that don't have the individualized season or statistics or, quite honestly, in my opinion, career that Jayden Daniels has. Because he scored over 70 touchdowns in 2 years, clearly had 50 this past year, 28 the year before. Guys, he went off at his time at LSU. He averaged 35 points a year ago to where this offense now averaged over 45, a 10-point difference, the number one total offense in the country. And quite honestly, led the best offense that we've seen this year And quite honestly, I think I can make the case one of the best, if not the best offense that we've seen since 2019. Now you'll say, what about the Bama year in 2020? I don't think that they're better than this offense. I thank Jayden Daniels for what he's done. Coming from when the guy entered the transfer portal and all of the players that were on his team at Arizona State, throwing all of his belongings in a trash bag, guys like who were actually at LSU, like guys like Trevez Moore, who were a cancer on LSU's team before he left, now is hoisting up the Heisman Trophy in Times Square, getting on a plane, coming home from New York with the Heisman Trophy. It's the best thing that he could. It's the biggest award that's won. There's no bigger individualized award. Now, are there other people around Jayden that has to get him there? Yeah. But we told you that this was a possibility when the kid committed here and signed here. We weren't joking. But let me throw out one thing, because I read a tweet from Scott Rabelais of The Advocate that said that Jayden Daniels' speech was not elegant but thoughtful. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that tweet even exists. It's not elegant, but it's thoughtful. Guys, when are people going to get on board of this JD5 hype train? And now I know that Scott Rabelais took a lot of heat, but man, this is the biggest day of that young man's life, and he deserves every flower in the state of Louisiana. Guys, when that plane touches down in Baton Rouge and Jayden Daniels gets off of it, he should never pay for another meal here, ever. Again, to me, second best Tiger ever. I know Tyrann Mathieu's career still exists. I get that. I know Kevin Falk, but I hear some of you today in the Retire 5 thing are trying to say, well, put Glenn Dorsey's number and name up there before you put Jayden's. What in the outright are you talking about? Fizzite. It's a big day for LSU, man. It's a massive, massive day for the Tigers. On the other side of that, though, Malik Nabers got snubbed. You know, while I was watching the Heisman Trophy ceremony and everything that Marvin Harrison Jr. did was about his daddy, I'm like, his dad didn't play. This award's not going towards his daddy. You're doing it for TV ratings. The 9th best receiver in all of college football deserves to be at the Heisman, deserves to win the Biletnikoff. And then I saw somebody saying, well, technically Marvin Harrison or Malik Nabers' debate is not with Marvin Harrison. It's technically with Jalen Hyatt because he won the Biletnikoff last year. Well, guys, here's another thing. These people voting on these awards are so bad. Like, guys, you have somebody who's currently unemployed that used to be on this LSU beat, I might add, who has a Heisman vote, who put a defensive lineman at number 2, Jayden Daniels number 1, over Michael Penix. Like, who are these people voting? Like, who votes on these awards? It blows my mind. Because most of you are in here every single night. I'm not trying to clamor that I should have a vote. But when it comes to college football, I feel like that I should have a vote more than half of the people that do. What are we doing here? Malik Nabers not winning the Biletnikoff. Come on, bro. When Jayden Daniels hoisted up that trophy, though, I got to admit one thing. Matt House, LSU's technically current still defensive coordinator, was in attendance at the state championship game. It made me pissed off. And I think when that award gets lifted up from Jayden Daniels with you not being in the playoff is a massive problem. Or at least not having 10 wins in the regular season is a massive problem. The last two quarterbacks that won the Heisman Trophy didn't get to the playoff. But I guess it is what it is. You know, this also begs the question, is LSU QBU? Of the last 5 Heisman Trophy winners, LSU has 2 quarterbacks that are in there. QBU? Should we make that a thing instead of DBU? We're QBU? I'd love to be QBU. What's the criteria, says Michael? What's the criteria of what, my man? Of on voting? I don't know. I mean, guys, Scott Rabelay's got a vote, and he said he's mad that they're talking shit about Jayden because of how non-eloquent his speech was. Like, bro, what are we talking about here? Come on, dude. This is also a very bad take, in my opinion. And Casey, I love you. He says Nabers had the better QB. It doesn't matter that he had the better QB. It doesn't matter, because if you would have asked in the beginning of the season which offense and team you would have want to be on, you would have picked Ohio State. It's not Malik Nabers' fault that he's got a better quarterback. You can't go at the end of the season and be like, oh, well, you know what? Even though, we thought Ohio State was going to be good in the beginning of the year. Oh, well, Malik Nabers had the better quarterback. And it doesn't stop him being the 9th best receiver in the country. Like, how is it that you got a dude with more catches and more yards? Oh, well, somebody had the better quarterback. And it's a bad take, man. It's a horrible take. I love you, Casey, but it's a horrible take. Because here's the difference between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers. You ready? If Malik Nabers doesn't go off every day, every single game, every single day, LSU doesn't have a chance of winning. Marvin Harrison had multiple games where he didn't show up and had 2 catches, Indiana, Notre Dame, and they won. Michael Penix had a game where he threw 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions against Arizona State. They won. Jayden Daniels didn't have the luxury of even remotely coming close to that happening without them losing. Jayden Daniels had to accumulate 600 yards and 5 touchdowns against Ole Miss, and they still lost. They couldn't do that. They couldn't just have games where they're only having 5 catches and 50 yards. They couldn't do it if LSU had a shot. They couldn't. I want a receiver that could be in the end zone. Casey, he was in the end zone more against better competition. What are you talking against better DBs? Marvin Harrison Jr. faced 1 first-round DB this year. Malik Nabers faced 2 on the same team in Alabama and went nuclear on them. Kim Jong-un would have been proud. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. All right. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Carter Bryant, up next. Let's talk about our good friends over at the Drake Williams Law Firm. Got a new building, man. Bro, if y'all want to see the most badass law firm in the entire state, you're going to have to go to the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Adding new people, adding new clients. They're exploding. They don't lose. Get over to the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Let's talk about our good friend Carol Foss over at State Farm. The power is next.
By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's a Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. Carter, the Power Bryant. Good evening, good sir.
Blake, it happened. It was the weekend that we had been looking forward to more than anything else, and it happened. I know it feels great. It's good to be with you, man.
Jayden Daniels won the Heisman. Carter, I tweeted this out today. I don't know if you saw it. I said #retire5. Am I crazy for thinking that the Heisman Trophy winner, in my opinion, the second best player in LSU's history, deserves to have his number retired?
Like, I was talking about Gabriel Relaford. What are you talking about? I'm kidding.
Don't come on here playing with me. We'll talk about him, though, but don't come on here playing with me.
I as far as number 5 being retired, Blake, you know those single digits, man,
Carter.
that's prime real estate, baby.
I don't give two flying shits what it is.
The Croods don't go on visits wearing number 26. They want the single digit, man. It's the aesthetic. It's how it looks, baby. But I would be open to it. I would be.
Carter, is he or is he not the second best player in LSU's history?
Second best player in LSU's history?
Yeah.
He is the second best quarterback in LSU history.
He's the second best player. Carter, he had 50 touchdowns in a season.
I'm not disagreeing with you that he's not one of the most productive LSU players, and that's not taking anything away from Jayden Daniels. But I think when it comes to grading all-time greats, you have to separate quarterbacks from everybody else because the quarterback gets the ball more than everyone else. But second best player in LSU history, sure, I'll do it. I'll do it. He's definitely the second best quarterback. He's definitely the second best Heisman winner. I'd put him ahead of Billy Cannon. I know some of well, you have a bunch of old timers. I have a bunch of old timers I watch myself as well. The truth, though, Blake, is this was one of the best seasons in college football history. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the issue I had with the voting, right? This has always been, a big debate. We saw members of the national media try to pick apart Jayden Daniels. The issue I had wasn't with someone like Joel Klatt, right? He had Michael Penix number 1.
I don't think his dad takes that bad. Like, he's being biased, but it is what it is.
Right. At least he had Jayden Daniels number 2. And I know Jayden Daniels was on 90% of the ballots. But if you didn't have him on your ballot at all, that is some of the biggest hater shit I have ever seen in my life. Like, I just don't know how you can look at every single Heisman Trophy winner and see that Jayden Daniels' numbers are better than every single Heisman Trophy winner ever. And you don't put him in your top 3 at all. Blake, that's people trying to vote against Jayden, keeping him off the ballot so he wouldn't win the award, right? That really bothered me. And I got into it with a few national people on Twitter about this over this weekend. And there's all this BS about what actually goes into being an individual award. But the bottom line is we all did our part in getting Jayden this Heisman Trophy, but Jayden did Jayden's part for getting this Heisman Trophy.
Last thing on him. How big is it for LSU having another one because Burrow's one thing, right? Like Burrow's is an outlier to so many different things. But to LSU, how big is it that another transfer QB can come in here, win it, and have the success that he had?
It's huge because it shows that we are more than just 2019, right? When people think LSU football, the first thing they think of is 2019 LSU. And there was a lot of iconic things that happened pre-2019 LSU, right? You had Tyrann Mathieu, Patrick Peterson, Devin White.
Matt Monk, Nick Saban.
Right. Les Miles was an iconic coach before all his transgressions, right? So 2019 LSU was so big, not only for the SEC and college football, but just history, right? Like one of the best teams in any sport that we have ever seen, right? So to have your first big national landmark after 2019 LSU was huge, right? It keeps the brand going. You're riding off the coattails of Kim Mulkey, Angel Reese, Dylan Cruz. LSU is that school. It's the brand. It's what everyone wants.
All right. Well, you went where I was going here. So let me just add, is this the best year completely that LSU athletics as a whole has ever had?
Yeah, it's not close. I mean, that's just not close.
Right. I thought the same thing. Somebody tried to argue me this the other day. Caught him like, what are we talking about? You had Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens, Jayden Daniels, Angel Reese, 2 national titles in different sports not named football. Like as a whole, like I get that men's basketball was ass, but it doesn't stop the fact that what you just did and the other major 3, Carter, this might be the best. Look, you got the Golden Spikes Award winner and the Heisman Trophy winner at the same campus.
Right. And you got gymnastics and softball's good. I mean, you have all these other sports. And also, LSU's kind of with the individual NIL stuff, the first big case study in NIL will be Livy Dunn because, she's not on the same level of an athlete as Angel Reese and Jayden Daniels, but she's made so much money off her name, image, and likeness because she's good at social media, right? So there's so much that's happened in this past year that makes this best year. Now, I know you can make a case for that 07 region where, you had Sylvia Fowles playing, you had the Matt Flynn championship. Those are some really good years mixed in there. The LSU's men's Final Four was in that region. But this past season was, of the modern era at the very least, by far, Blake Ruffino, the best season in LSU athletics.
Malik Nabers, the biggest argument, and by the way, if I hear Marvin Harrison's daddy one more time, I'm going to vomit. But Carter, I keep hearing, well, Kyle McCord's not a better quarterback than Jayden Daniels. And it's not Malik's fault. It's not Malik's fault. He's got more yards and catches than Marvin Harrison Jr. And it's not fair to Malik when he played better competition than Ohio State did. Ohio State's schedule was cheek water.
It was bad. And look, Blake, before the Florida game, I really had Marvin Harrison and Malik pretty much neck and neck. I had Marvin Harrison actually with the slight lead, even though the numbers were different. But after Marvin didn't have just these monumental games in the final month of the season, the numbers became so different, with Malik's worst game being better than Marvin Harrison's 4 worst games, and Marvin Harrison having less amount of catches and Malik Nabers had first downs. The number disparity was just too big. So Malik Nabers did get screwed. It was an all-time screw job for an LSU individual award. And I really hated for him because, Malik let it be known that he really wanted to win this Biletnikoff trophy.
Yeah, most hated is what he called himself. He was the most hated. I don't necessarily disagree with him.
Yeah, and look, Marvin Harrison was more than just numbers, right? He was the Ohio State offense. The Penn State game was won by Marvin Harrison alone, right? He really was spectacular in that game. But truth be told, Malik Nabers was better. The only thing that I think was working really against Malik is Marvin Harrison does play for Ohio State. Ohio State had nothing else going on this season. They lost the game versus Michigan. They had no other major individual players do anything. So they really rallied behind Marvin Harrison getting this award, and him being at Ohio State, and him and his dad being who he was really helped him win this award as well.
Yeah, I hate that from Malik. And look, we're about to see how big of how big he mattered in this bowl game versus Wisconsin, because I don't think Malik's going to play, and I don't think Jayden Daniels didn't practice today. That tells me everything I need to know about those guys not playing is that they have practice today and they're not there. And look, Brian Thomas Jr. had probably about the same season that Marvin Harrison Jr. had, if it's all said and done, which is a pretty good comparison considering they were both on the same team. Carter, let me ask you this. We turned the page. LSU started practice today, and Jayden Daniels was not available. It was Garrett Nussmeier's show. I guess your early thoughts, which it's not technically that early because he's probably going to play the entire bowl game, of now you turning the page from in the Brian Kelly area from Jayden Daniels to Garrett Nussmeier. What are your early thoughts?
Yeah, I think my heart wants Jayden, Malik, and everyone to play in the bowl game. But my brain tells me, Blake, that it's better for all parties involved to those three guys get ready for the NFL draft, and Garrett Nussmeier and the page get turned to where Garrett Nussmeier at least has one start, Blake. He's not had a start. Getting a start as a quarterback is so different than coming in and relief.
No doubt.
Right? You've been in college meeting rooms before.
Month to prepare, too. It's a different thing. Right.
The whole game plan is centered around you, okay? Mm-hmm. And guess what? The defense's game plan is centered around you, right? You're the guy. You have the keys to the Ferrari. This is your team. It's different than coming in the second half and blowing up Georgia, right? Cool. That was a great performance. But guess what? The foot is a little off the gas pedal when you're up by 30 in an SEC championship game, right? So the fact that Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the guy, or at least we think at this point that we're leaning towards him actually being the guy and Jayden missing out on the bowl game, guess what? That's probably the best thing for all parties involved, because our final memory of Jayden Daniels will be him at the peak, right? It'll be him in New York City. That's what we want, right? We want our final memory of that being the case. Now, once again, I would prefer those three to play in the bowl game because I'm greedy. I want to see those three, one of the best trios we've ever seen at LSU, play one last time. But the reality is it's better for everyone involved to where we're not having to worry about, I hope Jayden didn't get hurt on this play, or Malik get hurt on this play, or BTJ get hurt on this play. It's just one of those things where it would be better for Garrett Nussmeier to get those reps and see how he reacts, Blake, to being the guy.
Joe Sloan, kind of crazy today by the Our Coaching Network reported, is the Our Coaching Network QB Coach of the Year. Obviously, our national and SEC QB Coach of the Year. Mike Denbrock gets extended too. Okay, there was a lot of chatter too about Sloan going to Vandy. I guess, what are your thoughts on Mike Denbrock getting extended, Texas A&M going after him, and Joe Sloan being the quarterback's coach of the year? What are your thoughts on those two things?
Blake, continuity is rare in this industry.
It is very.
It's one of those things where I understand this is going to be the big question. What's Brian Kelly going to do in Matt House? But this is part of why I think LSU needs to go in a different direction. Coordinators want to be at LSU. They just do, right? And if you're good, you don't really want to go to anywhere else, because unless you're getting a real pay bump, or unless you're getting a way better job opportunity, LSU is one of the top 5, top 10-ish jobs in the country. This is where people want to be. This is where people want, to stay as a position coach or a coordinator. So Joe Sloan and Mike Denbrock digging their heels in and saying, this is where I want to be, does not shock me, right? Now, obviously, they got a whole new can of worms to deal with rebuilding this offense. And one thing to keep in mind if you are an LSU fan is so much of the LSU offensive success, Blake, as the season moved on, came down to the individual greatness of Jayden Daniels, right? There were so many plays that only 3 or 4 human beings on the planet could make, and Jayden Daniels is one of them.
And Lamar Jackson might be the only other one.
Right. So the plays that he made were so one of one, what the hell am I looking at kind of things where that's just not going to be there. You might not ever see anyone play at that level again as a dual threat quarterback. So the good thing now is if Jayden doesn't play in the bowl game, you'll get to see what the offense looks like, because so many of those great Florida plays, especially Blake in the Texas A&M game, where Texas A&M was in good positions to make plays, just Jayden was just too freaking good. So that's going to be their next big task. Is now Garrett Nussmeier, who could be a very good quarterback, he won't be Jayden's level, and now you actually have to have a lot of play designs work within the framework of the play.
Are you surprised that? How do I want to frame this question? So the green kid committed to Arkansas today.
Yeah.
MJ Morris from NC State's another kid that LSU is after in the portal. Surprised that they're trying to go with dual threat. Like, they're not trying to recruit the Garrett Nussmeiers of the world. They do not want dudes that can just only sit back in the pocket. I'm not saying Garrett can't run, but they want dudes that can run.
Yeah, so Taylor Green is a very special runner. Very, very, very special.
6'6", 220. I think Carter had 10 rushing touchdowns in the Mountain West this year. Dude's are just a freak.
Yeah, he had a 91-yard touchdown the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a big arm, and he's got, unbelievable speed. Not a great...
Bobby P wrecked his motorcycle when he found out he committed. Too soon.
Right. No, it's I can't get enough of Bobby Petrino motorcycle. I can't. But the truth is, as a thrower, he does stare down his targets. He does turn the football over. But look, I am interested in MJ Morris as well, but it does not shock me they're going after a portal quarterback. Wouldn't you do the same thing, Blake?
Oh, I 1,000% been calling it for a while. I don't. Do I think Ricky Collins can be a good quarterback? Yes. I don't think he's ready. That if Garrett goes down, bottom line too, like, even if you thought Ricky was ready, okay, like, even if you thought that he would be good to go, after what you just saw with Florida State and them getting snubbed out of the playoff, all right, even though I might believe that the committee got it right, let's not go down that rabbit hole, okay?
No, we're not doing that.
All right. Even though I think both things can be true, Carter, you got to. Like, you don't have a choice, right? Like, and look, who am I to say that MJ Morris comes here and doesn't beat out Nuss? Who am I to say that?
Yeah, and honestly, Blake, it's just one of those things where, once again, let's just say Jayden Daniels decides to start the bowl game. Okay.
You said it 3 times, but he ain't playing.
Okay. But just for the sake of this hypothetical, if he does decide to play the bowl game, LSU would be going into next season with their current quarterback room, Blake, with 0 career starts to their quarterback room. 0 career starts. Now, look, Garrett Nussmeier's playing experience does count for something, right? He played most of the Arkansas game his freshman season. Obviously, he played a lot in the Georgia game, and he stepped in and played really well when we needed him to this season, right? But starting is so different than just coming into a game, right? Now, that does not mean that Garrett isn't better than whoever they bring in from the portal. It's just, you want guys with experience, right?
Well, Nuss got hurt in camp this past year. Remember, he had the calf strain, and then Ricky Collins running with the 2s, and I'm like, oh, shit, no, kid ain't ready. Like, anything can happen, Carter. That's what I'm saying. Like, and you know when the last time that LSU's team had a quarterback room of 0 starts?
Let's hear it.
2020.
Exactly. Miles
You want to go
Brennan.
back to that? Because I don't.
You don't. It's the most rare asset you can have as quarterback with starts, right? It's a finite resource out there. So, yeah, anyone that wants to come in and compete, I think LSU is very open to it. And the fact that, during the Heisman week that Joe Sloan, once again, it's just a fact, he visited MJ Morris in his apartment complex. That lets you know that LSU is looking for some type of starter experience. And Blake, I do think they're looking for a player who can run some, just to give you a little bit of an extra dimension. But that doesn't mean Ricky Collins can't take a leap. That doesn't mean they can't not go after a quarterback who has just a pocket mentality like a Dante Moore, who obviously still has relationships with the current coaching staff. That could be something that could or could not be in the works. But yeah, I mean, I think Dante could be someone else that they go after.
Xavier Thomas, your favorite wide receiver in Louisiana football history that has not played a snap at LSU, is in the transfer portal. Actually, a little birdie told me, and I kind of threw this out a little bit last night in some groups, would be taking his visit today to LSU. Carter, Xavier Thomas gives us the ultimate weapon in special teams and in the offense that could be struggling, where yards could be at a premium next year. God, what an addition he would be.
Yeah, he's my favorite portal receiver. He was my favorite portal receiver last year.
Before he went back to
Mississippi State. This guy is special. Now, once again, I started doing my own prospect evaluations, and he was a top 3 player in the state of Louisiana a few years ago. So I liked him better than Chaz Preston and a few other names. Aaron Anderson included, who was part of that class.
Has Chaz Preston even caught a pass at Bama?
I don't know. I have no idea. But
I don't think he even has a catch.
Like I'm telling you, Xavier Thomas's high school tape, and it actually started in a Twitter Spaces where I feel like one of his assistant coaches was in a Twitter space. I know you were in there.
Yeah, he was in there. The special teams coordinator at Miss State.
Right. Yeah,
Miss State at his high school, John Ehret.
Right. So he was like, "Hey, I want to let y'all know Xavier Thomas is the guy." So it actually happened that night. So I was like, "Okay, I got to go see if this guy is." It was like in the wee hours of the morning. He was like, "If this guy is really pleading for his player," I was like, "All right, let me go see it." And I was immediately floored and was really taken aback with how good and productive he was. And at Mississippi State, he has been just that. And he really started to hit his prime at the end of this past season, right?
Yeah, dude, that punt return he had against Ole Miss, setting him up to score to get him back in the game. Like, he's a game changer, dude.
Yeah, and the Texas A&M film was way better than that Ole Miss film. It was crazy. This is a big-time football player hitting the prime of his career. And I do think he is a very, very, very good player. I don't want to call him special just yet because obviously we want to see how he fits in, but he's pretty close to it. So, Blake, I hope he is at LSU. He's one of my favorite Louisiana high school football players I've ever seen. Verified plus 21 mile per hour guy in high school. So those are the type of athletes that we want at this university. So I think he's big time, and hopefully LSU is able to seal the deal and he be a big part of what we're doing next year.
I'll ask you more in depth in coming weeks. Very quickly, if you had to pick today, Bama, Michigan, Washington, Texas, who are you taking?
Oh, God bless. Look at you.
I'm doing a national college football show now. I want to hear your opinion. That's why.
I am of the belief that Michigan and Texas will win. I am.
Do you just hate Milroe? Do you really hate?
No, I don't. I think.
Dude, I think. Well, go ahead. Go.
No. Tell me what you think. Because
I think Bama is a horrible matchup for Michigan.
Okay.
Horrible.
Why?
Because I saw their defense against Georgia, who wants to put everything condensed and in a box, and Bama just absolutely clap smacked them. And if you can clap smack Georgia, you can clap smack Michigan.
So you like Bama, I like Michigan, and you for the other game, where are you leaning?
Dude, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Because Derek Williams, the former 5-star at Westgate, plays at Texas, everybody thinks that their secondary is really good. Their secondary is asshole.
No, they're not. Yeah, they're not a good secondary.
Dude, they're 94th in the country in passing yards allowed. I think Penix and them about to run that shizite up. I do think Texas is more physical, which gives them the advantage here. But, dude, I pick against Washington every week, and they keep winning. But here's another crazy thing. Washington, dude. Washington is 120th in the country in passing yards allowed. Their secondary is ass. So I really don't – I think it's going to be a high-scoring, high-flying, kicking into the new year type of game. I don't know. But I will say this. Washington fans hate me. So, but I hate Texas so much.
I have Texas winning because until A.D. Mitchell loses a playoff game, I'm not betting against him. He is the Robert Horry of college football.
Right. He's about to be 8-0 in playoff games.
Dude, he is the clutchest wide receiver I have ever freaking seen since freaking Mario Manningham. I mean, the guy just that
Manningham,
guy,
dude, those catches along the sideline and the
Unreal.
Super Bowl, dude.
So I'm gonna go Texas and Michigan in the final. I do love Alabama's defense. I love what Nick Saban has done. I just think Michigan defensively is going to get enough stops. I do, and I think Michigan will win in like a 27-24 kind of game. Harbaugh though has lost every single
dude
postseason game. It's crazy, man. And if he chokes another one here after what they're trying to do contract-wise, it's going to absolutely shatter the world. And I'm not a Harbaugh fan. I'm not a Michigan fan by any stretch of the imagination.
And I'm not a Bama fan. I you know what else? Let me ask you a stupid question. You ready?
I love
dumb questions. Jalen Milroe the best quarterback that Michigan's seen all year? Because I think he's better than Kyle McCord.
Kyle McCord's bad. I don't think Kyle McCord's
I think he's better than the Tagovailoa kid at Maryland.
Yeah, you know what's funny?
This could be the best quarterback they played, bro. You know what I mean? Like, they ain't seen these dudes, man.
I don't know. You might be convincing me to go Bama.
I think Bama's good. I think it's a horrible matchup for Michigan, dude. I really do. And I know, I see some comments in here about y'all act like the Auburn game never happened. Y'all acting like the Georgia game never happened.
Yeah, the Auburn game is a little bit of an outlier because it is a road rivalry game, and Nick has never done well there. So
ever. It didn't matter who the coach was.
And Nick with time to prepare and a lot of experience in the playoffs. This could be his last. So yeah, I am going to go Michigan, Texas. I am going to go, but I will tell you this: I am pulling for Washington. I'm pulling for Washington.
Yeah. By the way, was there, speaking of, because we were talking about the Heisman Trophy earlier and Jayden Daniels, was there a more awkward moment in college football's history than RG3 saying Big Penix Energy standing right next to the dude?
Oh.
And then did you see Marty Smith lean up and fart?
Okay, so I am pro Marty Smith and fart.
I am too. Doesn't mean he didn't toot. He farted live on open air. Huh?
What I got to be real. If you ever invite me to a social event or anything like that, dude, I unleash fury, man. I have no idea why. Dude, I did. Just it's crazy, man.
Oh,
I am. Look, Marty, that's the biggest stage you can be on as a college football reporter.
Bro, that dude ate Taco Bell, leaning up, huh?
Dude, Marty, I am with you, bro. Let that thing.
I'm not with any man that's gonna fart like.
but here's the thing: if Marty did it and won't claim it, then I've lost a lot of
I
respect.
mean, if
man.
you're Marvin, did you see Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of just like
Yes,
flinched
Marvin-
a little bit?
I would
Oh.
I would have forgiven Marvin Harrison winning the most fraudulent Biletnikoff award in history if he would have called out the fart. It's right there. I would have been
like, hey man, you just farted on my TV.
if he just stood up and just
Oh,
said, "Now,
dude.
hold on just a minute. Hold on." Oh man, I would have.
Hey, never mind. Hey, did you know how they kept going to the orchestra that was playing the music when they're going to break? The
Okay.
dude playing the violin looks like he got bit by the anti-Spider-Man spider. Looks like Peter Parker without the powers, dude.
You get on the orchestra. I love
Anyway.
there's a lot of viral moments.
Lots of them. All right, buddy, it was great to have you here on this Monday. We'll probably have a lot to talk about practice going into Wisconsin next week as they started today, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight, brother.
Let's go.
All
Cheers.
right, man. Carter, the Power Bryant. We will see you guys again tomorrow. Y'all have a good night. Peace.